Italian PM Matteo Renzi has led calls for more European Union action on sea migration after the latest deadly capsize of a boat in the Mediterranean. Demanding a summit on the issue, Mr. Renzi said trafficking was a plague in our continent and bemoaned the lack of European solidarity. The 20 70 feet, long boat was believed to be carrying up to 700 migrants, and only 28 survivors have been rescued. Up to 1,500 migrants are now feared to have drowned this year alone. Human smugglers are taking advantage of the political crisis in Libya to use it as a launching point for boats carrying migrants who are fleeing violence or economic hardship in Africa and the Middle East. Slavery of 21st century. Mr. Renzi singled out Libya as the key problem, saying it was the starting point for about 90% of the migrants reaching Italy by sea. He said more rescue boats was not the issue, rather it was stopping the boats from departing. Some Italian politicians had called for a naval blockade, but Mr. Renzi said this would only help the smugglers as there would be more ships to rescue migrants. Urging the EU summit, Mr. Renzi said, "It is unthinkable that in the face of such a tragedy, there isn't the feeling of solidarity which Europe has shown in other instances." He added, "We ask not to be left alone, not so much when it comes to emergencies at sea, but to stop the trafficking of human beings." He said the trafficking was a plague in our continent, the slavery of the 21st century. Fellow European leaders echoed Mr. Renzi. Maltese PM Joseph Muscat told the BBC, "What is happening now is of epic proportions. If the global community continues to turn a blind eye, we will all be judged in the same way that history has judged Europe when it turned a blind eye to the genocide of this century and last century." Spanish PM Mariano Rajoy said, "This is the umpteenth time we hear of yet another human tragedy in the Mediterranean. Words won't do any more." Martin Schulz, President of the European Parliament, said, "Europe can do more and Europe must do more. It is a shame and a confession of failure how many countries run away from responsibility." UK Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond said the world is horrified at the appalling loss of life and that the main priority was to tackle the criminal gangs who are profiting from this people trade. A meeting of EU ministers in Luxembourg on Monday has now added the issue to its agenda. The EU has been criticized for its policy since the rescue operation, Mare Nostrum, was ended last year. Some EU members said they could not afford it and expressed concerns that it was encouraging more migrants. The EU now runs a more limited border control operation called Triton. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, Antonio Guterres, said, "This disaster confirms how urgent it is to restore a robust rescue at sea operation." Merchant ship. It is now dark in the area where the boat went down, 130 miles, 210 kilometers, off the Italian island of Lampedusa and 17 miles from the Libyan coast. So far only 24 bodies have been retrieved. The UNHCR said the latest sinking could amount to the largest loss of life during a migrant crossing to Europe. The migrants reportedly fell overboard when they rushed to draw the attention of the passing Portuguese merchant ship King Jacob, causing their ship to capsize. One survivor in the Canizzaro hospital in Catania, Sicily, said there were as many as 950 people on board, although this has not been verified. He said many were locked below decks and not allowed to leave. The UNHCR said that migrant boats had carried 13,500 people into Italian waters last week alone. Last year, a record 170,000 people made the perilous crossing to Italy. Thousands died on the journey.